Welcome to Sketched Sins, where every story has a dark side. The man who spent 10 years searching for his sister's killer found him in the bathroom mirror. Every podcast episode, every interview, every billboard, every tearful conversation with his sister's old friends. He had been talking to himself the entire time, and one 23-year-old listener was about to prove it. You're watching Sketched Sins, the case that made the entire true crime community ask the same question. How do you investigate a story when the storyteller is the killer? Hannah Reeves was 22 years old when she was strangled in her own apartment in Portland, Oregon, on the night of March 7, 2014. She had been a third-year sociology student at Portland State. She was found 2 days later by her landlord after a noise complaint about a faucet running. There was no sign of forced entry. Her wallet was on the counter. Her laptop was open. The police, in 2014, ran a basic DNA panel. Nothing matched. The case went cold within 6 weeks. For 2 years after Hannah's death, no progress was made. The Portland Police Bureau filed her into the cold case archive. Her parents, Mark and Diane Reeves, kept calling. They kept being told the same thing. There are no leads. There was, however, one person who did not stop. Hannah's older brother, Daniel Reeves, was a 26-year-old former English teacher with a soft voice, a habit of taking long notes, and what his friends would later describe as, quote, an obsessive attention to detail. Daniel did not believe his sister's case could go unsolved. He bought a microphone. He started recording. The first episode of Sister's Voice dropped on March 7, 2016, the second anniversary of Hannah's murder. The opening line, which would become one of the most quoted opening lines in true crime podcasting, was this: "Somebody in this city knows what happened to my sister. I am not going to stop talking until that person hears me say her name." Daniel's voice was calm, measured, even. He read police reports. He interviewed Hannah's friends. He reconstructed the timeline of her last 24 hours alive. By the 10th episode, Sister's Voice had 100,000 downloads. By episode 20, it had 1 million. See? What made Sister's Voice different from every other true crime podcast on the internet was the simple fact that the host was, on paper, the most grief-stricken man alive. He cried on microphone. He laughed at his sister's old jokes. He read her diaries aloud. He played voicemail messages she had left him from college. Listeners felt that they were grieving with him. By episode 40, the podcast had its own subreddit with 200,000 members. Volunteer investigators started canvassing Portland neighborhoods. A billboard fundraiser raised $80,000 to put Hannah's face on highways across the Pacific Northwest. Daniel started interviewing people directly: Hannah's college roommates, her professors, her last rideshare driver, a man she had matched with on a dating app 2 weeks before her death. Each interview, Daniel said, brought him closer to the truth. The episodes were structured like a true crime thriller: the dramatic music, the pauses, the implications. By 2020, Sister's Voice had named 3 different persons of interest, and the internet had ruined 3 different innocent men. One lost his job. One lost custody of his children. One died by suicide. Daniel apologized publicly each time. He cried each time. He moved on to the next suspect each time. Nobody noticed the pattern. There are now, in retrospect, 3 episodes of Sister's Voice that the FBI's Behavioral Analysis Unit considers, quote, self-incriminating audio evidence. Episode 12, recorded in 2016. Episode 47, recorded in 2019. And Episode 93, recorded in 2023. In each of those episodes, Daniel describes a specific detail about the crime scene that was never released to the public. Not in any police report, not in any news article, not in any court filing. In Episode 12, he mentions the exact brand of perfume bottle on Hannah's nightstand. In Episode 47, he describes the precise arrangement of 3 books beside her body. In episode 93, he refers to, quote, the kitchen towel, a detail no one outside the case file knew existed. Jordan Marks was a 23-year-old graduate student in forensic psychology at the University of Washington when he started listening to Sister's voice in the fall of 2023. He listened to the entire archive, all 95 episodes, over the course of a single semester. He took notes. He cross-referenced every claim Daniel made against publicly available case files. By December, he had found 7 discrepancies that he could not explain. By February of 2024, he had identified 3 specific moments in the podcast where Daniel Reeves had described details that, according to every available source, only the killer could possibly have known. Jordan was a graduate student. He did not know what to do with this. Jordan Marks emailed the Portland Police Bureau on March 11, 2024. The detective who finally responded was a woman named Maya Brennan, who had inherited the Hannah Reeves cold case in 2022. Maya read Jordan's email twice. She closed her office door. She listened to episode 12. She listened to episode 47. She listened to episode 93. Then she pulled the original crime scene photographs from the evidence vault. The perfume bottle was there. The arrangement of the 3 books was there. The kitchen towel was there. None of these details had ever been in any public document. Daniel Reeves had been broadcasting them to 2 million listeners for 10 years. Detective Brennan opened the case officially in May of 2024. The first thing she did was send the original DNA sample from Hannah's body, collected in 2014, never matched, to a private lab specializing in forensic genetic genealogy. 6 weeks later, the lab uploaded the unidentified male profile to a public consumer ancestry database. They did not get a direct match, but they got something almost as good. A second cousin, twice removed, on Hannah's father's side. The cousin's family tree pointed in exactly one direction. The lab's geneticist, Dr. Elena Park, called Detective Brennan on a Tuesday morning. "I think you need to sit down," she said. Detective Brennan did not need a warrant for what came next. Daniel Reeves was scheduled to appear as the keynote speaker at the CrimeCon convention in Las Vegas in June of 2024. Undercover detectives attended his talk. After his question-and-answer session, they retrieved the paper coffee cup he had left at the podium, along with a chewed pen and a napkin. All 3 items were sent overnight to the same private lab. The match was confirmed within 48 hours. The DNA on the coffee cup, the DNA on the napkin, the DNA on the pen. They all matched the unidentified male profile from underneath his sister's right thumbnail. Daniel Reeves was arrested on the morning of June 17, 2024, in the lobby of the Las Vegas Hilton at 6 a.m. He was scheduled to be on a podcast panel that afternoon. He had been planning to wear, by his own subsequent admission, a Sister's Voice t-shirt with Hannah's face on the front. When the officers approached him, Daniel did not resist. He did not deny anything. He simply took a long sip of his coffee, set the cup down on the marble counter of the hotel reception desk, and said one sentence to the lead detective. "I have been waiting for someone to listen carefully for a very long time." Then he held out his wrists. "Das Sinn. Chadri." The trial of Daniel Reeves began in February of 2025. The prosecution's case was, in the words of one legal analyst, the most elegantly self-incriminating evidence in modern American jurisprudence. They played Daniel's own podcast for the jury. Episode 12. The pause before he mentioned the perfume bottle. Episode 47. The way his voice changed when he described the 3 books. Episode 93. The single word. The forensic psychologist, Dr. Lisa Hanwell, testified that Daniel had been engaging in what she called narrative confession compulsion, the documented but rare urge of certain killers to publicly describe their crimes in plain sight, daring anyone to notice. He report The motive, when it finally emerged, was the most ordinary part of the entire case. Hannah Reeves had been about to inherit $18 million from a trust fund set up by her grandfather. Daniel had been excluded from the trust due to a clause his grandfather had added after Daniel was caught forging checks in college. Hannah had told Daniel about the inheritance the week before she died. According to text messages later recovered from her old phone, Hannah had also told him she intended to share none of it with him. She wrote, and we quote, "You burned through every dollar Mom and Dad gave you. You will burn through mine, too. I cannot do that to Grandpa's wishes." On April 11, 2025, after 12 days of deliberation, the jury returned a verdict. Guilty on the charge of murder in the first degree. Guilty on the charge of obstruction of justice. Guilty on 17 counts of evidence tampering related to the false leads he had seeded in his podcast over 10 years. Daniel Reeves was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. As they led him out of the courtroom, he reportedly turned to the gallery and smiled. He did not say anything. Sister's Voice is still online. All 95 episodes. The platform refused to take it down, citing journalistic significance. Listeners now go back. Episode 12, 23 minutes in, Daniel describes Hannah's room. Listen carefully. He says the perfume bottle, singular. Then he pauses. Then he corrects himself. The perfume bottles. But the original crime scene only had one bottle. He had remembered correctly the first time. Episode 47, 18 minutes in. He describes the way the books were stacked and gives the exact order. In a tone of voice that has been compared by audio analysts to a man describing his own kitchen. Episode 93. He says the word, he knew. He had always known. The cruelest part of the Sister's Voice story isn't that Daniel Reeves killed Hannah. It's that he wanted us to know. He spent 10 years telling us, and we kept listening because we thought he was the grieving brother. Sometimes the storyteller is the killer. Tell us in the comments, did you spot it before episode 93? Reading Sketched Sins. A new case opens every week, scrawled in ink, blood, and shadow. Subscribe so the next page doesn't turn without you, because every story has a dark side.